Hello everybody, another video today. This time I'm going to be making some jambalaya soup. It's plant-based, no oil. It's something that I've made before and really enjoyed it, so I'm making it again. Center myself a little bit better. So again, I appreciate you signing on if you're here. And I have been learning a lot recently about the various things that are going on with food safety, how we should be preparing our food. So I'm going to go over some of those things as people sign into this video. I'm going to start my video with the soup preparation, and like a lot of soup, I have my recipe right here in front of me, and the recipe's already on my website, so you'll be able to get it very easily as soon as this video is over. I'm going to post it. This is just half of an onion. My recipe says a small onion. This was a really big onion. I always peel the onion now, especially. I washed the onion, peeled the layer of skin off. I'm slicing it horizontally so that it'll be diced smaller. And then, as I've mentioned before, I just kind of follow the lines of the onion and I slice it along the lines. And then when I just chop across the onion, I'm able to get nice little diced pieces. I see somebody's joined. I'm gonna have to wait a little while before I respond to anyone who's joining in, because it's hard to cut and get to the screen of my phone at the same time. So just be patient with me. If I don't answer your comment while we're on this video, I will later. I think you kind of know by now that I have done that. I'm trying to get all of this right, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So what I did was I chopped my onion. We're making plant-based jambalaya soup. It's a really delicious soup. My daughter-in-law is home with laryngitis. It's viral laryngitis, so she's going to be sick for a few days. There's no treatment for it. There's nothing they could give her other than they told her to take cold medicine. They didn't think she had the coronavirus. She didn't have a fever or any of the other symptoms, so they didn't test her, of course, but I don't think she has it, according to what she's been told. Let's see who's on so far. I can't read your things from this distance. I'll have to pull the camera in, so it's going to have to wait a while. So with this recipe, like a lot of soup recipes, it starts with onion. I started with a hot pan, and I'm using a skillet to saute my vegetables for the soup, only because there's more surface area in the 12-inch skillet than there is in the pot. It's just not as much surface area. So I'll be able to do a lot more at one time. And that, to me, is quicker and more efficient, and it just works better for me. So the recipe calls for some onion. Too bad you can't smell it, but I've heard that they're working on some things with some platforms where you'll be able to smell the food as it's cooking. Wouldn't that be great? Then it uses some bell pepper. And I'm going to use this whole red bell pepper. I may leave some little parts on it and use it later for some other preparation. But what I do is I cut the sides off the bell pepper and make them into slabs. And that way they're easier to cut, so that they just came off the sides, and you don't have to then mess around with the seeds. And I'm just going to cut these into strips, kind of, 4-inch strips, because the small dice is 1/4 of an inch in size. So sometime during my video, I'm going to look at your comments and try to respond. I think that'll work better than me trying to crane my neck to look up at all your comments all along. So just know that I appreciate you if you're attending. It really is heartening to see that people are actually watching these videos. They're just kind of thrown together. It's just me here usually, and I just decided, instead of waiting until I could do this perfectly, that I was just going to do it. Why not? What do I have to lose? With everything going on in the world today, what do you have to lose by doing something different? If my videos are not the best quality or whatever, it's okay. Nobody has to watch them then. I figure the people that will watch them are the people that don't mind, that are willing to put up with whatever isn't working. I'm putting some celery in. It calls for half a cup of celery. I'm going to estimate that that is about 3 celery stalks. And I'm saving all the scraps in my scrap bowl. I've already collected quite a few this week, and I'm going to use those to make some vegetable stock. I didn't have time today, or I would have made some, because it's really simple. And in fact, when I send you this recipe, stir this a little bit. When I send you the recipe for the soup, you're gonna get the recipe for the homemade vegetable stock as part of the soup recipe, so you can make that on your own. So I'm cutting up the celery. This is kind of inspired by Cajun recipes, but really it's nothing like a true jambalaya. It's nothing like gumbo. I'm sorry, but it's really hard to make an imitation of gumbo or when it's plant-based. Sorry, somebody's calling me, my husband. I should have known. I told him I was doing a video. I don't think he listened. Actually, it looks like two stalks of celery are going to be enough. And I can tell my onions and everything are starting to kind of brown a little bit. So I'm going to toss in a couple of tablespoons of water. I've shown you this before. Oh, it's going to mess up my hair. Anyone have hair that gets frizzy easily? I have that issue. Okay, so I'm going to cut up the rest of the celery. Yeah, that pan is kind of hot. Too close. So I'm putting celery, onions, and in this case, bell pepper. Now, normally I would have put green bell pepper in this, but I didn't have any green bell pepper. I used it all the other day. So, you know, with soup, you don't have to be perfect. Soup can be thrown together with ingredients you have on hand. That's the beauty of it. So I would say use what you have and don't worry about it. I have some garlic here somewhere. Here it is. I'm going to put a couple of garlic cloves in. So the typical mirepoix, which is the base, the French term for the base vegetables for most soups, is carrot, celery, and onions. But I'm using the Cajun or the kind of the Louisiana version of mirepoix, and they use bell peppers, onions, and celery. So it's just a little bit different, but you'll find that as the basis of things like gumbo and jambalaya. But the difference with what we're doing here is, since we're whole food, plant-based, no oil, we're making this without oil. We're making it super healthy. It doesn't have any flour. It just has the vegetables. So I have my garlic ready. I'm not going to put it in right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just let this keep cooking for a minute and let the onions soften. And while it's doing that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about vegetables and what's going on today. Oh, I'm going to put some jalapeno pepper in here too, sorry. I have a nice large jalapeno pepper. I'm going to throw that in. I'm not going to put that in with my soup vegetable stock because I'm afraid that it would make it too spicy. Because when you make vegetable stock, you want it to be kind of plain. You don't want it to have any strong flavors, because you're going to use it with other dishes that you're going to flavor. So we want to kind of keep it neutral. So I'm getting my little jalapeno pepper. Again, I cut it into strips, and then I cut the strips into small pieces. It's very simple. I'm making this in front of you just like I would make it if nobody was here but me. I would do the same thing. I would probably have my little scraper, bench scraper, to make this a little bit easier, but I forgot it in the other room. And I'm going to add my garlic now. And I'm going to just let these vegetables cook for a minute or two. The rest of this dish is going to be so easy. So now I'm going to pull this up and see who's on and answer some questions. Linda Nickel, I'm so glad that you're here. Cappy, oh hi Cappy Snyder. I enjoyed watching your trip to Israel. Martha Brown, hi Martha. I love all your posts. I love the fact that you did Zoom service with your church. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I watch what you're doing, and I'm so happy that you're on looking at what I'm doing. So thank you for your comments. I love to see the comments, and I will answer them. I think that's one of the nice things about doing live videos, is that you see that people are watching and they have something to say. I wanted to talk a little bit about what to do with fresh vegetables. This is a concern right now. We're getting told things from different people. I had heard initially that we should take our fresh vegetables when we come home from the store and wash them with soap and water. So that's what I've been doing. I have this huge chef giant bowl, I don't know how big it is, 8-quart bowl. And I have been filling it with warm, soapy water using dish soap, putting all my vegetables in here, the hard vegetables like peppers and celery and carrots, and letting them sit for a few minutes, 15 minutes, and then I wash them off really well. Then I rinse them and rinse them and rinse them because I don't want to have any soap on my vegetables. And then they should be safe to use. A friend of mine today said what she was doing was she was washing all of her produce outside her house before she even brings it in a big pot like this. She has a utility room where you could use your hose, I guess. And she was doing the same thing, but she was doing it outside and not bringing them into her house until they were washed. So you can do that, and then also the outside of the packages of things you buy at the grocery store. So before you bring them in your house, you can clean them off if you choose to do that. Let me see what kind of comments you're making now. All right, Cappy says, how do you get the onion and garlic smell off your hands? I guess being a chef, it doesn't bother me. It may always be there and I just don't know it, but lemon works really well. Where did I find the jalapeno? I got this a few days ago at Central Market. So I get all my vegetables at Central Market. If you go early in the day, they seem to have a lot. So anyway, be thinking about how you're going to wash your vegetables. Don't just bring them in the house, out of the store, where everybody's touched them and they've packed them up for you. Wash them with soap and water. That's a very important point. Another thing, I watched the John McDougall YouTube video yesterday, and it was kind of sobering because the McDougalls, they're being super, super, super careful. And they were advising not to even use raw vegetables at all. Like, don't even wash them and use them, or don't eat them raw. What they were saying is always cook your vegetables up to at least 170 degrees. So cooking your vegetables then kills any potential possibility of the virus. So think about that if you want to do that. Otherwise, if you're going to eat them raw, wash them, soap and water, and just be on the safe side. And wash all the packaging of your things before you bring it into the house. Have a staging area set up outside your house where you wash off wash off your packaging that you're going to bring into your pantry. And if you receive an item from Amazon or something, the container of your to-go order, touch it with gloves. And then before you bring the thing into the house, remove it from the outer packaging. Bring that in, wash your hands really well, and then take the food out of the to-go container, put the food in the plate you're going to eat it in, warm it up for 30 seconds in the microwave, and then eat it. That is one way to be safe ordering to go, because I was thinking ordering to go could be a little risky because you don't know who's touching that food. So I'm going to see if there's any other questions or comments. Lori Brown, thanks for all the tips on washing the veggies. You're welcome, Lori. I hope any little tip I give you helps. The McDougalls had a lot of really good information, so watch the McDougalls' recent videos on YouTube. They talked a lot about ordering freeze-dried foods that had an unlimited shelf life, because what happens if we're not able to get fresh vegetables? That could happen. And then what are we going to do if we have no fresh vegetables and we wanted to have celery, onions, or carrots in our food to make the basis of a soup? It really does make a soup or lots of stir-fried dishes taste good. So another solution, if you can't get freeze-dried food or aren't interested in that, is you can chop up all these vegetables and put them in, I would say, like, take a half cup of onion, celery, carrots, whatever is your mirepoix or basis of your soup, put them in a container. I use Ziploc bags, they're plastic, but if you have glass containers or something, put those little chopped up vegetables in there, and then freeze them. You could have a whole stack of starters for your stir fries, soups, and a lot of dishes that start out with onions, garlic, carrot, celery, bell peppers. Those things will freeze really well. So if it gets to the point where I'm seeing that I'm not able to get much of these vegetables in the supermarket, I'm definitely going to do that. Now I'm going to be transferring all these vegetables, all these cooked vegetables, to my soup pot, because these cooked up really nice. They're all softened. They're not, they're not cooked all the way through, but they've softened just by being here. And you see some stuck to the pan, so there's a lot of flavor in that. And what's left, so I'm going to put some of my vegetable broth that I'm going to be using anyway into the frying pan so that I can get all that flavor into the soup, the flavor from the cooked vegetables. So that's just kind of a nice thing to do if there's any brown bits. And you see, I cooked all those vegetables just in a hot skillet with a little water. I didn't have to use anything other than that, and it's going to taste fine. In the beginning, when I started making things this way, people would say, oh, that sounds terrible. How are you going to eat food that doesn't have any flavor? But it does have a lot of flavor. I'm going to go through my recipe. I've put the bell peppers, onion, celery, garlic, jalapeno pepper. Now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of my Cajun seasoning. Now, I made my own Cajun seasoning, and it's really simple. It has paprika, this is all garden variety, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, thyme, oregano, and cayenne pepper. Now, I have some of this stuff in my pantry all the time, Slap Your Mama, which is really great. It tastes wonderful. It has salt, pepper, black pepper, red pepper, garlic. However, it has 310 milligrams of sodium for 1/4 of a teaspoon. So if I put 2 teaspoons of this in my soup, guess what? It's going to be really, really, really high sodium. So instead, I'm putting 2 teaspoons of my no salt Cajun seasoning, and that is on my recipe. So when you get my recipe, that'll be on there. That's going to give it a really, really good flavor. Now, if you have a no salt version of some kind of Cajun seasoning, fine, use it. There's a company called Bayou Basin or something that I had at one time. I had some of their seasoning and it was really good. I'm adding a whole container of vegetable stock, broth. I get this at Central Market. I like it. It does have sodium in it, which is why I'm not going to add more sodium. You can make your own. I said earlier that I will include the recipe. The recipe has the vegetable stock. Let's see if there's any new comments. Nope. Okay. So then we're going to add some tomatoes. So I have the vegetable stock in here. I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes. It's a 15-ounce can of organic diced tomatoes. If you had some old tomatoes around that you wanted to use, you could put those in there. Then I'm going to add some tomato paste, and I think my recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. Well, I have tomato paste in these little Ziploc bags because when you open a can of tomato paste and you need 1 tablespoon, what do you do with the rest of your tomato paste? Well, I just freeze it in 1 tablespoon portions like this. It usually comes off. It was frozen, but it wasn't now. It's kind of defrosted, so it made a little bit of a mess, but that's all right. We're going to put our 2 tablespoons of tomato paste in here. This time I'll use my spatula so it won't get all over my hands. So that's our 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And that was easy. I'm going to get a paper towel. All right. So I'm going to add some other seasonings as well. I am so fortunate that I have a vegetable garden, and I also have an herb garden. So I have things like fresh parsley that I'll add a little bit of that, and then I also have thyme, rosemary, sage, just any herb you can think of, and they all came back, which really pleased me that they came back after the winter. So my herb garden is full of stuff. I wish you could see it. Maybe sometime we'll do a little tour of the outside, and you can see those things, or I can put the camera over there at the end and you can see. So I have my thyme. I'm going to throw some fresh thyme in here, a little parsley. I've already washed these things. And one thing that I thought of the last couple days is there's never been a better time to start a garden than now. If you have never been a gardener, this is a great time to start a vegetable garden. I was out today with my husband and we went to Callaway's nursery and we went to Russell Feed Store, and there was no big crowd. It was outside. We got all kinds of vegetables for our garden, and I already have a lot of herbs growing and some other things that came back from last year, but I'm really gonna enjoy my garden more this year than ever because I know that I don't use any chemicals. I know that no one's gonna touch it but me. I can go out and pick it anytime I want. I don't have to go to the store. So, those are all advantages to me. So, if you're thinking about having a garden, this is a great time. It's not that hard. It's like anything else. Just decide to do it. Some of the garden centers are still open, especially if they're selling vegetable plants, because they've been justified as a market because they sell plants. If you don't want to go out and buy plants, you can order plants from Burpee Seed Company. They have a lot of live plants they'll send out to you, or plant seeds. Seeds are a little harder to grow, but you can grow lots of things from seeds. I have a whole bunch of seeds upstairs in my guest room that I started weeks ago, where now I have the starts of eggplants, cucumbers, and kabocha squash, which I love. So I have everything in here except for some things like beans. These are red beans. I'm going to add those now. And let me see if there's any new comments. Okay, Heather Guy, hello. Teresa Bomar, why cook vegetables in a fry pan first? Because when we're not using oil, then we're not really bringing out a lot of flavor in the vegetables. And when you kind of cook them in the skillet, over time, it brings out some nice flavor from the cooking process, and that to me flavors a soup. It's like caramelizing an onion. If you're going to add raw vegetables to your soup, they're never going to taste as good as a caramelized vegetable. And we can caramelize the vegetables without using oil, so that's kind of what I'm doing. And it doesn't bother me to do that. Now, if you don't want to do that, if you just want to add your vegetables to your soup, that's fine. You can do that. I like to do it that way because I think ultimately it tastes better. There's something about the taste of raw onion and garlic in a soup that I don't find very appealing. That's just me, so that's not what I do. But it's not going to hurt anything. You can just add it in there. Now I'm going to stir it around a little bit. And I wanted to tell you about my beans. I cooked some small red beans. I don't know if you can see all my different jars back here. People have commented on what's your collection of mason jars. Well, they're all beans and grains. These are small red beans. I cooked these in the Instant Pot. So what I did was I just needed 2 cups of cooked beans. So I cooked 1 cup of raw beans earlier today in the Instant Pot. I soaked them for 3 or 4 hours. I forgot to do it, so I soaked them probably for 4 hours. I put them in the Instant Pot, covered them with a couple inches of water, and cooked them for 30 minutes. And they came out just fine. They're not too soft. They're not hard. They're fine. They're going to cook more in the soup, so I didn't want to cook them to death. So they're good. I also have grains back here, and things like steel-cut oats. I have quinoa, and I got one of those nifty labelers that you can make labels for your jars. I know that's probably a little bit obsessive, but I like that. So I made the red beans ahead. Now, if you wanted to use canned beans, you could use canned beans. Nothing wrong with that. Have we had any more questions? Let me look. Hi, Jay. How are you doing? Have you had any sushi lately? So nice to see some of my familiar friends chiming in, and it's funny. I watched a couple of different churches today, and one of them was a local church, and they were doing a Facebook Live feed. I got to tell people not to call me when I'm doing these videos. But it was so interesting because I was watching somebody I know on the Facebook Live feed talking about things and singing songs, and it just was a good feeling. It was like I really felt connected to that person. So I'm telling you that if making my dinner on Facebook Live in any way makes you feel better, then it's worth doing. If one person feels like this helps them, helps their morale, great, it's worth it. Because it helped my morale to see those people on their Facebook Live. I thought, for whatever reason, it was just very uplifting to me. So, I'll keep doing these as long as there's an interest. And I'll do the best I can. I'm not great at it, but I'll just do the best I can. So I added my beans, and my live video tomorrow is going to be all about beans. I have a lot of good information about how to cook beans so they taste wonderful. And I'm going to share with you how to cook beans on the stove, in the crock pot, in the Instant Pot, what kind of beans, how to flavor the beans, how long they take, everything I know about beans. I'm just going to share it with you. And I think there's a time for beans, and they're so delicious. And I think if more people knew how good they tasted, they would really enjoy them and not see them as, oh, I've got to eat a can of beans and it's not that great. I think we can make them taste really good, and this is one of the ways, having this kind of, jambalaya soup. We're using beans. So I've got the beans in there. Now this is another strange ingredient. Now I'm making this soup for my daughter-in-law, Casey, so I hope she doesn't not like any of these ingredients. I asked my son if she would, and he said yes, she likes it, whatever you cook. So I have tofu left from Thursday night. I made some different things with tofu. I made a bento box, or maybe that was Friday night. Anyway, it was a couple days ago, and I had a half of a block of firm tofu. Now, tofu in soup is not that strange. It's protein, so I'm cutting the halves in half. That's kind of my tip, is cut your tofu in half, cut each half in half. I'm going to turn it to its side, and I'm going to cut those halves in half, and I'm going to cut those halves in half. And then I have all these little cubes of tofu that way, so I'm going to cut it in half again, half again, half again, half again. Same thing on the other side. I know you guys probably think I'm strange, but what I end up with is all these nice little even cubes of tofu. So I'm putting my firm tofu in the soup. Now, if you think that's strange, Amy's Organic Meals have tofu in their soups and in their a lot of their dishes, and it tastes great to me, so I put it in mine. And then, okay, I'm going to see if there's any more comments I need to answer. Cappy says, can you quick soak in the Instant Pot by setting the time to 0 minutes? Oh, you can quick soak in the Instant Pot by setting the time to 0 minutes, letting it come to pressure and natural pressure release for 10 minutes, then release. Thank you, Cappy. That is very helpful. Kendra Kelly says, your jars are awesome. Really enjoying your videos. Thank you, Kendra. Kendra was supposed to come for a private class all the way from Oklahoma, but she couldn't come because we know what's going on. So I hope she's able to come again one day. I do classes for 3 hours with people one-on-one or 2-on-1 and teach them about meal prep and all kinds of things. So hopefully we'll be able to do that again one day. I hope so, but in the meantime, I'm going to do what I can do. And then so what we do is we let this cook, and my instructions will say let it cook for, I need to read my own recipe, cook for 30 more minutes. 15 minutes initially with the vegetables, and cook for 30 more minutes. And then after we cook it for 30 more minutes, which you're not going to be able to see me do that, but I'll post a picture of the soup after it's done. That's what I've been doing. I've been posting pictures of whatever I cook after it's done a little bit later, and then you can see it. But the last thing I'm going to add is rice. I have leftover rice from Thursday night. I made a big batch of rice, and I need 3 cups for my soup, so I'll put it in at the end. I'm not going to put it in now, but that will add a little bit more to the rice. And then as far as the soup, of course it needs to cook down. more. It's not going to look like it's going to look when it's all done. You can kind of see it. It looks very thin and it's just not cooked down. But it will cook down. It will have lots of flavor. I've made this before. And what I'm going to do toward the end is I'm going to add some scallions right before it's served. Now, in light of taking care of vegetables and not eating lots of raw vegetables, what I might do, and I'm putting all these in my bowl for future stock, so I have plenty of things in here, and I have a bag in the refrigerator. So I might put these scallions in and let them cook instead of eating them raw. So I will put the scallions in there. And I can also put my parsley. Now my parsley's from the garden, so since it's from the garden, I'm not worried about it because I washed it off and I know that it wasn't handled by anybody and it's safe to eat. So I'll put that in there as well. And so my little parsley, I love the parsley. I can't believe the parsley survived the winter. That's just fantastic. So I've got my parsley here, and I'll put these on at the end. So while that's cooking, I'm going to see if you have any other questions. What type of rice? Okay, Heather Guy, that was Japanese rice that I had from making the obento. So it was tamanashiki Japanese rice. And, it's just a easy to find rice at Japanese markets, but it might be a little bit more difficult at an American store, but you can use any kind of rice, it's fine. So I'm going to show you all the garden. I'm going to reverse the camera and show you outside. Oh, there go all the birds. I'm going to get back inside because my network connection is getting weak. All right, so if anyone has any more questions, go ahead and post them now, or if you need to ask me later, that's fine. Uh-oh. Hey everybody, am I back on? I lost my network connection when I went outside to show you the herb garden, but I think it's back. The soup is cooking. It's doing really well. I think you can see it. And maybe not. Get back from it. There it is. All right, so the soup is cooking. I'll post a picture of it when it's done. And I think it's going to be really tasty. I hope you all make soup. If you want to make any kind of soup, start with the same basic recipe. Just any kind of carrots, onions, celery, bell peppers. Saute them in your soup pot or in a skillet, or put them in the soup without sauteing them if you want. Add some liquid, usually vegetable stock, whatever you have. Add some beans, add some cooked leftover vegetables. In my case, I actually added tofu, which may be strange, but it worked. And you'll have a delicious meal, and it keeps really well. And it's something that you can freeze if you wanted to freeze it. So give it a try. And remember, tomorrow is everything about beans. So come in tomorrow. I'm going to try to do these at 3 o'clock every day. But if it doesn't work out, like today it didn't work out, some things came up, someone stopped by the house to deliver something. So normally 3 o'clock Central Time, I'll be doing a video every single day. I hope you can tune in and send me your requests. I have a few requests and I'll be making some things. And thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. Bonnie Olson, did you add the tomatoes? Yes, Bonnie, I added the tomatoes. The can is empty. I added them when I added the stock. I added the tomatoes and the tomato paste. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all for watching. And again, if you have a question later, I'm going to save this on my Facebook page. And oh, thank you guys for thanking me. I appreciate it. This is going to be on the Facebook page, and you can make more comments, and I try to answer all the comments. So, please know that if you're interested in this, I'm interested in connecting with you and answering your questions. So thanks again, everybody, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. If you like my videos, share them with your friends so that more people can get involved watching. I'm going to try to pass on what I think is important information as I get it. And so maybe we can all learn something together about what's going on in the world and how we can protect ourselves and ways that we can use what's in our environment for the best. So thanks again, everybody. Good night.